Hey, fifth grade. I miss you guys so much, and I hope everybody's doing well. We're going to dive right into our lesson today. As you guys know, we're going to be starting doing virtual lessons since we can't meet at school. So today, we're going to be doing a fun baking lesson that goes really well with what we were working on before we left school, which was fractions. And the reason why I'm doing baking is because that's something that I have been enjoying doing while being at home. So we're going to dive right into it. Today we're going to be making some banana bread. For this recipe, you're going to need 3 mashed bananas, which you see here, 1 cup of sugar, 1 egg, 1/4 cup of melted butter, which we have here. But I just wanted to show you this just to show that you can see the measurements on the butter itself. You need 1.5 cups of flour, a teaspoon of baking soda, and then a teaspoon of salt. So, these are all of the ingredients that you're going to need in order to make this successfully. All right, so let me push these to the side really quickly. The first thing we're going to do is mix in our egg into the mashed bananas, and then we're also going to need our cup of sugar. So we're going to measure that out using our measuring cup. Okay, so we're going to add in that sugar. And then the last thing we're going to add into this is our melted butter. So those are the 4 things that you're going to need to mix together. The others you're going to mix into a separate bowl. Okay? And the whole purpose of this, I will tell you your assignment at the end. The whole purpose is to pay attention to the different measurements that we're using. Some of the measurements consist of whole numbers, and then the others consist of fractions. So we're going to be using those in the end for our assignment. Okay, so as you can see, this is simply just mixed all together. So we're going to use another bowl to mix in the other ingredients that we have left, which is our flour, and we need 1.5 cups of flour. So if we're using 1/2 cup, we know that we're going to need to fill this more than one time. So we've got 1/2 cup, and if we add another 1/2, that makes a whole. Okay, so now we're at a whole, and we're going to have to add in 1 more 1/2 to make 1.5 cups. All right, and then the next thing we're going to mix in is the baking soda, and we need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So I've got my teaspoon here as well. Okay, so these are the only 2 ingredients you're going to mix in for this. Okay, so I'm simply just going to mix these together and make sure they're mixed in. All right. So now, the last thing we've got to do is mix in the flour that we just poured out. We're going to mix that into the bananas that we had before. So all we're going to do is slowly just mix this all in. So as I'm pouring, I'm making sure that I'm stirring. Okay. So I've dumped it all in, and I'm going to make sure everything is mixed together. It's starting to stiffen up a little bit. And look like dough, so that's a good sign. All right, so the last thing that we need to add in is our salt. So once you have everything mixed in together, then you can go ahead and add that 1 teaspoon of salt. And once again, I'm using that measuring device so that I can make sure I have all of the ingredients in here correctly measured. Okay. So I've stirred everything together and it's starting to look like dough. So now the last thing we've got to do is pour this into our baking pan. And the one thing we've got to make sure to do is grease our pan. Okay, so I'm going to go through and grease it. Once my pan is greased, I'm going to go ahead and pour this into the pan. And before you even start, make sure that you preheat your oven to 325 degrees. So I've already done that. So all I have to do once I pour this in is put it in the oven. I'm going to make sure that I get everything. All right. All right, so this is what it looks like before it goes in the oven, and I'm going to go ahead and place it in. Okay, and that's all you've got to do to make your banana bread. I'm going to make sure I list the ingredients as well as the instructions and baking time below so that you all can bake this in your free time if you'd like. But I want to make sure that I get to the assignment that I want you guys to complete. Okay? So the first thing, I said the sole purpose of this was to give you ideas on how we incorporate math outside of the classroom. Okay? So I want you to come up with 2 to 3 different ways that you can use math outside of the classroom as well. And I want you to just simply write that up. Okay? And then for the second portion of your assignment, I want you to use the whole numbers and the fractions that you have in a recipe that you find. And I want you to simply add those together. So these are all of the units of measurement that we had for the ingredients that I used for my banana bread. So we're simply just going to add these together. We've got 3 plus 1, 4, plus another 1, that's 5, and I'm going to skip to my other whole numbers. That's 6, and then there's 7. So let's go ahead and write that out. We've got 7. And then we've got 1.5 plus 1/4. As you see, our denominators are not the same. So we know we're going to have to convert a fraction to make sure we have that same denominator in order to add them together. So if we're finding a common denominator between 2 and 4, we know that if we check our work, we know that 2 times 1 is 2 and 4 times 1 is 4. If we multiply 2 by 2, we get 4, and we see that 4 will be our common denominator. So we're going to take our 1.5 and we're going to multiply that top and bottom so that we can make an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 4. So if we're multiplying across, as we know, 1 times 2 is 2, and 2 times 2 is 4. So the equivalent fraction that we have made for 1.5 is 1 2/4. So now we can simply add those together. We've got 7 plus 1 2/4 plus, we can't forget, the last fourth. Okay? So now we've got 7 plus 1. That equals 8. And we know 2/4 plus 1/4 is equal to 8 3/4. All right? So that's what I want you to do. I want you to find a recipe, and I want you to list out the whole numbers and the fractions as I did, and I want you to add those together to get the fraction amount of the ingredients that you used.